what you want. Now give these people air.
I get that one confused so much.
I don't know.
With
that's what you're going for.
Running Man as well. But we are live. This is it. Live before lock. It's your old pal Emac and one Fast Eddie Fear.
Get down! Sorry.
Get to the chopper! I don't do that one justice. But
it's not one of my core impressions, but the short burst you can get to. My favorite Arnold impression is just when something goes wrong and he makes sort of this string of it's just like and just like he just has a very unique guttural thing in his voice. Sorry.
Oh, such good times. All right, well, let's get rid a few of the fun housekeeping things here. Well, I've got the tweets going out. I've got us up here on the old YouTube. Get this out in the Slack. So we've got a lot of stuff in front of the paywall today. We have the Awesemo NBA player rankings. So you're going to get those for free if you would like today. We have the NFL projections and the NHL player projections. So all of that stuff is free today. I have a feeling those NFL ones are going to go back behind the paywall tomorrow. So if you want a sneak peek, check those out now. We, of course, also have in the can the show On the Contrary. That was with Alex, Awesemo, Baker, Chris Baggs, and TJ Hernandez from 4 for 4 football. So that is a good show if you want to take a peek at that after our show tonight. And we're going to take you right up to lock. We have a boatload of news. We have people that we thought were going to be out that are in. We have people that are that we thought were going to be in are not playing tonight. It is an actual veritable poop salad, I think is the appropriate term there. But let's get this. And we have Fred Van Elite on the slate as well. But let me get that, and ta-da! So let me talk about some of the injury news that we do have while Eddie's getting his rankings into the system.
I've put 2 in now, so I'm pretty sure we should be good there.
All
Just
right.
FYI, if they're not, someone's scream bloody murder because I've made 6 and I've uploaded 2, so but ranking should be good to go.
All right, so let's quickly hit on, get this screen up. We'll look at the quick injury notes, and then we're going to go kind of game by game. We're going to go situation by situation tonight to make sure we can get through all the highlights, and then
I like that.
Also get a few questions there at the end. So the basic ones, we were pretty sure that Malcolm Brogdon was going to be out. He hurt his back last night and left the game, did not return. He is out. Jeremy Lamb continues to be out. TJ McConnell, we thought was going to get some additional run with Malcolm Brogdon out. Turns out that he's got a sore groin. He's not going to be playing tonight. Potentially Naz Long is going to be starting for Indiana. Miles Turner was going to be in, then out, then doubtful, and now I think he's starting as best I can tell. I think, Eddie, I may have missed a few here and there, but
yeah, we will get Pacer starters in time to react to.
There were plot twists today with that one.
Yeah, one of the reasons they were late is they're like, we're updating this. I'm like, okay, I just need that, and then I can put these rankings in. And that because it obviously radically changes a number of relevant players. But
yeah, so that rolls everything around. New York had a bunch of people dinged up, but Frankie Ntilikina, did I get it right this time?
That's good.
Close enough. He will be in tonight. RJ Barrett's going to be playing. Taj Gibson again starting. I don't know, trade value that's non-existent being boosted for him. Mitchell Robinson still coming off the bench. And it sounds like Nick Batum may be coming in for Charlotte here. He's been dealing with the broken finger, but he could be back. We've got Daniel House out. Clint Capella in the concussion protocol. And then I'm missing one there. Oh, Russell Westbrook taking the back-to-back off. Andrew Wiggins out, personal matter. His grandmother passed away. His family is up in Toronto. He will not be playing this evening. Let's see. New Orleans, another mess there. JJ Redick sprained his toe. He will not be playing this evening. Lonzo Ball still out with the adductor injury. You've got Josh Hart out yet again. So we're going to have the literal poo-poo platter of the Pellies that will be in play again tonight. Miami, a bunch of people were dinged up. We're pretty sure Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic are going to play, but they're both sick. Justin Winslow still in the concussion protocol. Jahlil Okafor, that should have been up there with New Orleans. He's out. We're not sure yet what's going on with Brandon Ingram. Still a sore right knee. He was questionable the other day and then downgraded and then ultimately out. So we'll have to wait for more news on that. OG Anunoby should be back. He had the eye poke or the abrasion on the eye, but he will be starting tonight. Or I believe he'll be starting tonight, but he is back. DeJounte Murray sitting out of the back-to-backs. We have Kawhi Leonard. We're not sure what's happening there. He has a sore knee. That's an island game tonight. That's at 10:30. It's the lone late game. There's a couple 9 o'clock games. But pivot moves away from him would, of course, be Paul George. We're not sure what Paul George's minutes are going to be, but he's going to be playing. Patrick Beverley nursing a calf injury. We have not heard what is going on exactly with him. And then I'm missing somebody else. Oh, the Kawhi thing with his knee. He played 40-plus minutes 4 times last year. He'd never played a back-to-back last year. He came in and did 40 or 41 minutes in his last game. So we'll have to see. It's one of those marks he hadn't crossed in a while. So I don't know how worried we should be about that. And then doubtful, Shabazz Napier circling back here to Minnesota. I missed that one. And then Teague should be in. He's still dealing with the residual effects of whatever valley fever or whatever horrible thing that be
dengue fever. I think
dengue
it was
fever.
Yeah.
Seriously?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I was like, well, do you have a tropical vacation or something? I don't know.
I should have run something even more obscure. No, it's not dengue fever.
All right.
He did not between games last week take a quick trip to the Sub-Sahara. No dengue fever. Or actually, yeah, that's what it is.
There we go. And then, so here, okay. This is perfect. This will kick us off because this is the game we're going to start with. We're starting with Houston and Minnesota. Sure. We've got birthday boys. You and Karl Anthony Towns both celebrated last night, each in your own way. He got gobsmacked there by the Wizards of all teams, particularly Mo Wagner, and you got gobsmacked by things that younger men find fun. So there you go. Well, older men do too, but the recovery time, Eddie. I'm feeling you're a little sluggish today.
Yeah, I'm hopefully Karl Anthony Towns, someone we're obviously going to take a strong look at this evening, had a lighter evening than I did. I definitely think my wife is a formidable woman with a mean streak, so I imagine he's not as sore as I am today. He only played 33 minutes of an NBA basketball game.
Yeah, I'm sure you had tequila, and then that was probably the most PG of things you did. But anyway, we're getting this.
You have to dull the pain at a certain point.
Yes. So speaking of dull the pain, this one's coming in from Premium Chat right off the bat.
Sure.
What do we think of Chris Clemens tonight for tournaments? Is it too much of a pay down in a pace-up matchup against Minnesota? My official assessment of Chris Clemens is, I want no part of him.
I disagree with you.
Okay, now we're firing on all cylinders. They want to hear you. Take it away.
I do like the fact that we have a nice 10-minute intro. And then from the chat, first question, Chris Clemens. Clearly, Chris Clemens, the dude upon which so much hangs. I like lots of guys in that 3K 3,100 range tonight. Chris Clemens is one of them. There's just enough guys out, and someone has to play guard for this team. So I have trouble getting him under 22 minutes, and he costs 3K, and the matchup is great. I have him at 24. It's, there is some question, but with House out now, if House had come in, he was questionable for a long time. There were ways that they could just keep him at 7 minutes again or 12 minutes or something like that. But I think the dude has to play 20 plus minutes, and he has shown that he will go the hell off and do sort of mini Westbrook stuff. And he's $3,000. So I don't think it's a super hot take. I think he's expected to be owned somewhere in the teens. But at that price, there's a real upside. I'm fine with whatever amount of Chris Clemens you want to get to. I have to go back and look at some of the pricing and compare him to some of the other 3K 3,100 guys who, by virtue of all the injuries, the Nazem Itrue Longs of the world could be making an appearance tonight. But I like Chris Clemens. I'm very not against Chris Clemens. Sorry, man, but I would be significantly exposed to Chris Clemens. He would find his way into double-digit lineups of mine.
The mini Russell Westbrook comparison that you just gave was, I was not expecting that.
He can take mini Russell Westbrook because the game styles aren't that different, but he can take a really significant chunk of usage when given the time and industry to do so. And when you're looking at 38 minutes of Austin Rivers and Ben McLemore and PJ Tucker and some Tyson Chandler. And like, someone has to shoot the ball. And don't get me wrong, James Harden is first in line. But somewhere after that, Chris Clemens is in the back trying to see over the taller guys going, oh, me, I'll shoot the ball. So, if the ownership stays low, I would probably get over it. D'Antoni can do some crazy stuff when it comes to messing around with minutes. But again, game last night, flight, you would think he would be disposed to see a somewhat proven player at this point and like give him some time and let him do stuff. And then the matchup is there. So you're telling me I have minutes, matchup opportunity, manageable ownership. So we're on a pretty good streak when it comes to ranking value. And yeah, I'm in.
All right, that's it. Listen to Eddie. Don't worry as much about what I have to say here. We've got as we branch out from this one, I would like to get as much James Harden and Karl-Anthony Towns into my lineups as possible. I'm no stranger to that, or that's pardon me, no hot take there by any stretch of the imagination. Last night I was heavy on the Wizards and Minnesota game. I'm going to do something similar tonight. The other game I really like is the late game this evening, so that's going to kind of be where my core is coming from. As we look over here on the Minnesota side, do you want to talk about some of their value options and how many would you play in your lineups? Last night we talked about maybe of the Okogis, the Culvers, Layman, etc. Of those 4 or so guys down there, maybe 2 of the 4 would be the limit. That would still allow you to be getting in, as many as 4 T-Wolves, because you could still get in Towns and Teague and whomever else is in that group.
There is some fair amount still up in the air. I need to know what's going on with the Heat and what is going on with the Pacers and what's going on. But when you say limit of 2, my limit would be closer to 1.
Okay.
Dwayne Bacon is in, by the way. Dwayne Bacon, don't get me wrong, he's Dwayne Bacon, but he comes with the surety and the confidence that comes from having a pretty great name, I can tell you. And he's $3,100 on DraftKings. In a related story, I'm just saying these are guys that probably much more limited ownership I'm a little more interested in getting into than I hope this guy on the Timberwolves plays 23 minutes and is decent. Like last night, you saw a lot of that value get there. And certainly tonight has track meet potential again, but I think last night was a little overly positive for them. But again, no Wiggins. You're going to see a lot of these guys be kind of decent, and I'll probably have to update a couple things. But Batum is back in. That messes up that matchup a little bit too, and the way exactly the minutes are going to flow out on the wings there. But Bacon, another name to keep interest in. I want to touch on the Rockets for a minute more. We literally, I'm not kidding, we started a show and you gave me a minute to talk about Chris Clemens, and then you went, and now onto the Timberwolves, because Clemens is the only relevant player on the Rockets apparently. But now that we've gotten him out of the way, let me touch on a couple of the more tangential pieces, like say James Harden.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm gonna fix our names, because right now you're me and I'm you. So
well, everyone should have a chance, I think. So Harden. Look, he played 40 minutes last night. That is a lot of time. And dude is getting a little older, and he's human, and all these things. And I still have him projected for 71 fantasy points tonight as a median. So I felt it was important to mention that we currently have his ownership projected somewhere in the 30-ish, 35-ish range, and I would want more. I'm not quite gonna throw 100% on him, because there are some other very exciting spend-up plays in the Trays and the Lukas and the Giannis's and the Towns and the whatever. And if you ran 100% James Harden, you would really have to underexpose yourself to some other pretty compelling plays on the slate. But I'd get to half. I'd maybe get to 2/3. This is just one of those times I think a lot of people are overthinking it. And again, as we just discussed with Pacers and Heat and Chris Clemens and wherever the heck you want to go, there's enough value there where windmill slamming a lot of James Harden would be pretty key to my strategy tonight. I will say I think our projected ownership in this case is a little bit low. I will be surprised if he doesn't get to about 40%. That's where I would guess he comes in. and I would probably still want well more. Yeah, you are looking at both of these teams on the back end of the back-to-back. Both teams play Monday. There is some chance of shenanigans, blowout, what have you, but the most likely scenario is James Harden plays minutes into the mid to the high 30s on a team with other people who really aren't terribly interested in shooting the ball and doing things, and stand there and watch him go into a tremendous matchup. And like, if he has a halfway decent shooting night, you're looking at 85 fantasy points. If he happens to pick up some peripherals, you get our first triple-digit fantasy score of the year. And I'm not speaking hyperbolic. Last year, I think he had 2 in the high 90s and 1 where he hit $1.02. It's a very real possibility. So, yeah, back-to-back 3 and 4, that concerns me. Plane travel, all these good things. But more likely than not, if he was going to be appropriately 60% owned, I would be in a tough spot. I would have to sit here and have a conversation, but he's not going to be. That number is going to come in 35 to 45. That number is too low. PJ Tucker, I really like on both sites. He's going to play some center again. I think he played about 10 minutes last night with Chandler starting and Hartenstein backing him up, but 4,400 on DK in a good matchup. Yeah, at that, I give PJ Tucker an A in cash. That's about the second or third time I have done that and I'm a big PJ Tucker fan, in hundreds of games. He's just going to play a ton of time. Getting down at the 5s, an extra fantasy cookie for him. Again, there will be lots of shots to go around when you take Russell Westbrook off the court. Surprisingly, other people get more involved. I have a lot of interest in the peripheral pieces for this team. I ranked 5 guys A's in GPPs, and they are James Harden, Ben McLemore, Austin Rivers, Chris Clemens, and PJ Tucker. They're just all priced extremely well. Again, it varies a little bit site by site. I am not shocked. So I don't know if you all remember JaVale McGee Day of a few days ago. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with Tyson Chandler here. I don't have an official minutes read, but I have heard of weirder things than on this situation in a back-to-back, dealing with an older center as his battery mate. Again, this is all identical to the JaVale McGee spot, that you get fewer minutes out of Tyson Chandler and more minutes out of Isiah Hartenstein here. I don't think that's likely. It's not like Chandler is in horrible shape or has seen a ton of time, but 20% chance you get 24, 25 minutes out of Isiah Hartenstein at the flat minimum. I would have interest in him at 3K. I imagine he is owned at some 4%, and I would probably have somewhere closer to 10 as just another 3K guy who has a very real upside there. Also, less weird possibilities are just Tyson Chandler gets in foul trouble dealing with Karl-Anthony Towns for a half hour. That's also very possible. So another value piece I would want to get some would be Isiah Hartenstein. The 2 chalky pieces who are going to play in the high 30s in minutes would be McLemore and Austin Rivers. I have Rivers projected higher. I would generally prefer Rivers. I need to check our ownership on those 2. I haven't looked. But yeah, you want a lot of Houston, and I would want to be over on the kids, especially in lineups where there, but for the grace of God, I don't have James Harden. I'm really excited to play Chris Clemens. Like, he's probably my first guy into that lineup. I'm like, well, this lineup doesn't have James Harden in it. Let's put Chris Clemens in there. We'll start there and then go on. I might be Austin Rivers, but both of them get very exciting to me because this game is going to move, and they're both guys who can certainly pick up the double-digit assists. Not having Westbrook out there, though, really is very relevant for me, much more so for Rivers than McLemore, because he does have an assist upside. His ball handling is well superior. So that's the Rockets in a nutshell. Sorry for ranting for a minute there, but it seemed like one I wanted to touch on a little more in depth. Similarly, I'm a pretty big fan of all the guys across the ball. As predicted, we've seen some, monster games by and against the Timberwolves due to their lack of defensive prowess and their ability to run up and down the court all night. I even ranked guys like Gorgie Jang and Noah Vonleh, who normally wouldn't get a spot in the rankings. And Trevion Graham, Derek Culver, Jake Layman, Josh Okogie, all those guys got Bs and GPPs. I like them quite a bit, but the prices aren't as juicy as some of these other guys we're talking about on potentially, most specifically Indiana and Clemens and other guys on the Rockets in this. So Those guys are 3K. These guys are all 4K to 40, 4,500, I think, for all the guys. No, Trevion Graham's 3,500. And I think he got up to a CB because of that. I'm not surprised if any of them get there, but they are a second tier of guys for me. My interest in GPPs would be Culver, Graham, Okogie, Layman, based on the DK prices. Past that, I love Robert Covington, 4,800. Again, just a great matchup. That price is too low for him. He always has the potential to spike in upside. I imagine he's fairly popular. Jeff Teague, 5,100. Absolutely love. Don't know what the lingering effects are. Haven't seen a minutes limit. I will look for that again in a second. Karl Anthony Towns did not look great last night. Is a back-to-back. Someone, I just got a DM that seemed relevant a minute ago. Are you at all worried about Towns on the back-to-back? Only 30 minutes per game on back-to-backs this year.
He's had one back-to-back this year.
Right. And I'm fairly certain his one back-to-back game this year was against Detroit, and Drummond put him in foul trouble in the first half. Someone can double check this, please. But I'm fairly certain he played one back-to-back game this year. It was against the Pistons, and that was the game he got his third foul somewhere in the beginning of the second quarter and played like 12 minutes in the first half and then played 18 or 19 in the second half. I think that's that scenario. But I wouldn't give a crap even if somehow he did only play. That game was close, so he wasn't like pulled for a blow up. But I think he was in foul trouble in that game. He's historically played slightly better on the back end of back-to-back, plays a ton of minutes. He's one of the most, as all men born on that day are, Studley guys you'll get out there. He puts in his time and has not seen minutes lapses, and I wouldn't expect to see one here. So, no, not overly concerned. Love Towns quite a bit. Everything comes in relative to ownership, but neither of those guys are owned nearly as high as they should be.
All right. I'm going to talk Raptors, and then we got a little bit of Miami news here, but this is a super chat. Sorry, Sam Snyder here had to wait for a moment, but shout out one. We got 2,400 people already watching the show. Sure. That is one of our best totals here for a Saturday, so especially this early. Give us a little,
all the holidays. Yeah, okay.
Little thumbs up. But we've got, let's see, Sam Snyder would like to know, which Raptor would you most want to roster between Hollis Jefferson, Powell, and Anunoby?
Anunoby, not terribly close. You can make an argument for Powell. I think Hollis Jefferson. They don't want to play Rondé Hollis Jefferson. They don't like him. Last week was fun for me for a lot of reasons, because a lot of them there were a lot of just like, paying attention to news and listening to coaches. They don't like Rondé Hollis Jefferson. They just don't. Their comments on him have been very, well, a bit of this and bit of, like most players in the NBA, when their coaches or their front office talks about him, they are intentionally very deferential. They don't ever say anything bad, basically. If a guy is doing great, they're like, this guy is amazing. And if a guy is doing badly, they're like, he's got a lot of potential. Like, they just don't do that. And they've, they literally tried to run Malcolm Miller out there, who was clearly not ready for the situation, and start him over Rondé, when clearly Rondé should have been starting. So with Anunoby back, I would be surprised if Rondé Hollis Jefferson played 20 minutes. And yeah, so he's going to come in behind guys I expect to play way more. But I would rank those guys. I'd have to check ownership. And it's relevant for site too. On FanDuel, Anunoby is a little more reasonably priced. He's in the mid fives. But on DK, Anunoby is 4,800. He's got multiple 48-point games this year. 40-plus point fantasy games there, excuse me. But he's 4,800. Don't hate the matchup for him. Practice yesterday, so I expect him to be all good. I expect him to start this game and be a really nice value. So that's Anunoby for me by a good amount. A little more likely for me hits an upside. Much better picking up some defensive stats. I don't mind Norman Powell, but I really don't know if I'm getting 21 or 34 minutes. So I'll defer more to Anunoby, who feels weird coming off, but I expect better ownership, and I do think the upside is better.
All right, just a reminder, chat, in YouTube, we like to have fun, but if you're going to be a dipshit, you're going to get booted, or this was your one ceremonial timeout. This is for Nick Collins. That was your timeout. That was everybody's timeout. I'm going to start banning people that are being dipshits, so you're not coming back. So choose wisely what you choose to say. All right, Eddie, you know who chose wisely? Goran Dragic.
What'd they say?
They're putting out false news, and we don't do false news in chat.
Yeah, no, we don't do that. That's the very uncool. I'm a pretty chill dude, but that's one of the things that'll go. Don't mess around with other people's money.
It's other people's money. We're not screwing around.
Yeah, I'm not in for that.
Yep. So Goran Dragic out. Jimmy Butler waiting to see if
still not sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, the Imodium takes a little while to.
I love it. Again, this is why, when you have another game coming up soon, you shouldn't, make out with the other guys in the locker room after the game. You can spread a sickness pretty quickly around the locker room. I would just tip from experience. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So Kendrick, they don't want none, but I sure do. I've been a Kendrick Nunn fan all year. This is a brilliant matchup. I don't know what our ownership is projected at, but it's going to have been likely previous to the Dragic news, which is only some 7-8 minutes old, so that's not terribly relevant. With the chance Jimmy Butler sits, and the surety that Goran Dragic won't suit up tonight, I'm a real big fan of. I think FanDuel is the nutso price. Is it 54 against the Pellies? 54, got it right on the nose. Yeah, I'm a big Kendrick Nunn fan. Pretty massive Kendrick Nunn fan. Like his production has actually been pretty consistent. It's just been hanging in there with the minutes a lot. Like if you look at his game log, last game he got 37 minutes, got 45 fantasy points, 36 minutes, 33 fantasy points. Game before that only got 23 minutes, only got 21 fantasy points. Game before that only 22 minutes, only got 14 fantasy points. But he's in there hanging around swinging. I predict him for more than a fantasy point in a minute in this matchup, with Dragic already certainly out, and obviously Winslow already out, and even Derrick Jones Jr. being out. Those things all amortize. Everybody take a drink. Their way up the lineup and produce extra minutes for the Duncan Robinsons of the world, but eventually for the Kendrick Nunns too. So at this point, I'd have Kendrick Nunn projected for, without knowing Butler's status, I'd probably have to still hedge to 32, 33, but dude costs 5'4", 5'8", and in this matchup, I'd probably go with a projection of 1.1, so you're looking at 36.5 fantasy points, which feels good. Butler's out, I'd bump it to 36 or 37 minutes, and you're looking at 40 fantasy point projection for a guy in the mid-fives who it won't be owned enough, I don't think. But that's some Miami news, my friends. We're interested here. I guess I'll update some rankings. Let's update some rankings. That also play Lex Luger's music. Get Tyler, get some exposure to Tyler Herro. Now you really want Butler out for that one, because he'll actually get to play some next to Nunn, and that could work very well. But keep in mind they still have obviously no Winslow. Dion Waiters is still suspended, so. And Duncan Robinson is $3,900, and against New Orleans would become another guy I would play before I got onto the Minnesota guys. I like the Minnesota guys, but last I looked, I want to take a look at their projected ownership. They were all a little higher than I was comfortable with, and I think one of them is probably very, very good. I think, and don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful game, but when it comes to guys of sketchy ability to produce, some of these guys were a little. Thankfully, we have the good three at the top. We have Towns, Teague, Covington. That is as it should be. We have Culver at 13%. That's fine. He would be my favorite of these guys. I mean, at least they are owned appropriately relative to how I would project them. And the other guys are fairly far down. So I probably rank them a little lower than I should have. But just the prices aren't quite as good as these other guys. And I would have them all projected for, in the mid-20s. They're all 20 to 26 for me, which are fine projections for guys who cost, 4,300, 4,000, even 3,500 for Trevion Graham. I think ratio is out the best for me. But, I would generally look other places. I think I saw Clemens as I went through. Let me look. Yeah, Clemens, 14%. As he should be. That's fine. I like that. He's better than Terrence Mann. I've been the value whisperer the last 10 days. I don't know if it's going to keep up, but that was a nervous one because I crapped all over Terrence Mann, and then he went out and played more minutes than any other Clipper in the first quarter. He played 10. Everyone else was out after 8 or 9 and had 12 fantasy points. And I'm like, oh, I had to end sometime. And then he played 15 more minutes and scored 2 more fantasy points. It's all right, good job.
All right.
Lots of luck last week.
Let's hit on the Indiana and Milwaukee game. We do have a starting lineup.
We do have a lineup?
Yes, okay. For Indiana.
They're playing. It's the holidays, right? They're not
the holidays. Warren, Sabonis, and Turner for the first time in 8 or so games.
Yeah, Warren is the sexy piece here, by the way. Ain't nobody talking about TJ Warren and, isn't priced that brilliantly. And it's a day where everybody is, looking to save because there are just a number of guys on the slate who can score 80. And so you want to put as many of those in your lineups as possible. That's a very normal impulse. But there is always, obviously, a zig when they zag sort of thing. So you're looking at, TJ Warren has some very real upside and was starting to come around. And then you had a big foul trouble game from him. I think that was fairly relevant in the rotations yesterday. When you look at the Holidays, like Justin Holiday played basically the second half. But because I think TJ Warren was in foul trouble, he fouled out, right? Somebody help me here. So many stats. I occasionally get my guys twisted, but I want to say TJ Warren fouled out yesterday, and I have some real interest in him at obviously a sticky position. Yeah, he fouled out yesterday in 22 minutes. His games before that were coming around. Fantasy point totals at 37, 26, 25, 31, 49, 39. Before that, not the world's best matchup, but when you deal with decreased guard play, which is safe to say anytime you lose somebody like Malcolm Brogdon, and Lamb is still out, and on FanDuel, it's hard for me to get away from Aaron Holiday at his price. Also very hard to get away from Justin Holiday at his price. Yes, you can play them both. Yes, you can play James Harden and Chris Clemens. I don't know if that was a joke. Somebody sent that to me, but yes, when one guy costs 3,000, you can ignore the can I play this guy and this guy, unless they're literally direct subbing in for, and even then you have Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, where JaVale gave you 50, but Dwight gave you 30, whatever, and they both cost nothing. So, but I don't know where I was. Yeah, just saying that TJ Warren, I guess, is going to be projected for like the high single digits. I would bump that closer to 15 for my personal exposure. 7.5%. Look at that.
All right. On the other side there, we've got some questions coming in about Bledsoe, about George Hill. Is Giannis the pivot away from Harden and or Towns, etc.? What are your thoughts on there? We got 28 minutes to go still, so we're doing okay on time.
I love Giannis if our ownership is vaguely correct on him. Like having Middleton out is a real thing for him, and I do think extends the ceiling significantly. And I have Giannis projected for 8 fantasy points less than James Harden, which still puts him over 60. Like we have him currently at under 10% ownership on DraftKings. That's very little. And as more and more super low value opens up, I imagine my first lineup configuration would be Harden, Giannis, and then figure out what the hell I can do.
So it wouldn't be Harden, Towns? Because that's the follow-up question everybody's going to have here.
Yeah, as they should. It ends up being a little site dependent. There are some interesting value plays at center on FanDuel, which sort of store the drink a little bit. Well, where do we have Towns? I mentioned we have him in 25%. Yeah, that's tough. Look, I love James Harden at 36%. I love Towns at 25%, and I love Giannis at 9%. But yeah, I would be more inclined in my first lineup to play Giannis over Towns.
Okay.
I'm not saying you should, and obviously the tag is significant, but that's enough differentiation for me that when you look at playing all three of those guys as almost impossible, I don't even need Towns to like be bad. I just need, if Giannis gets 72 and Towns gets 61, that's probably still right to get the top highest guys in there, because there is just going to be enough value. Like there's something like 15 compelling tournament value play guys who cost $4,300 or less. I need to hit the correct 4 that get there in the lineup we're talking about building. But and again, new ownership, Harden 44%, that feels better to me. Very nice. Towns 31%, that feels better to me. Yeah, that's where they should be. But again, I don't see Giannis on my first page. Still don't see Giannis. I'll just keep scrolling here. 9%. So yeah, that made him even a little better for me. So I do not project him as well points per dollar as either Harden or Towns. But yeah, I like the spot. I would I would go big game hunting with Giannis. As far as Bledsoe goes, I think he's just fine. He is, unfortunately, in a world of Kendrick Nunn and other guys. And again, I'm trying to play Giannis, but I would be more heavily exposed, obviously, in if I'm playing more than one lineup or I don't have Giannis in a particular lineup. I think it's absolutely fine to get to him. The matchup is enhanced significantly, really, by not having Brogdon out there. That is really relevant with the guys they're going to have to run out there at guard. Yeah, big fan of Bledsoe there. Post that, it gets a little stickier on this team. George Hill mentions are appropriate, but I will say that while the minutes were exciting, the usage is about what I saw. I think George Hill is a just fine cash game play. I would have to look for a while and figure out if there are like 4 better cash game punts for me. If I saw George Hill in your cash lineup, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense for me. In your tournament lineup, I'm not sure 29 minutes holds. I think it probably does. I think I have him projected for 28. I'm slightly hedging low there. And there's obviously a number of guys they can cycle in there, but I would have his chance of getting 40 fantasy points being less than that of Chris Clemens. I would have his chance of getting 40 fantasy points being less than that of, I'd have to sit there and think about it with like Dwayne Bacon for a while against the Knicks. So, great cash game play for me. Second tier for me in tournaments.
All right, that hits that game there. Let's look at so we've got Shabazz Napier is out
yeah,
for sure. I'm gonna tee up. Oh, I knew I closed the wrong file. Let's talk a little bit. We don't have the news yet with regards to Kawhi. Do you think he's playing? And go ahead and riff on the cascading effect of him in or out for the Clippers.
Yeah, if he's in, it kind of screws everything on both sides of the game. Even like it's a little less exciting to get to Atlanta with lots of Paul George and Kawhi running around. Like, I know the hip thing to say is, I don't do individual defensive matchups and I just kind of ignore it. And I get that, but it's another one of those things that's really impossible to quantify. So people ignore it. And I generally don't like ignoring it. It's like blowouts. I understand people who go like, I just don't factor blowouts into my math. I get that, because factoring blowouts in is hard. There's this weird, bell curve or Gaussian curve of possible outcomes, and they get totally blown out, and no one plays the fourth. They're kind of blown out, and the guys lose 3 minutes. It's really hard to somehow quantify a team that is projected to be a 15-point loser, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If your team is a 15-point dog in a game, that should reduce your projection. I understand someone who goes, I don't know how to do that, because that's really difficult to do. I'm not a huge fan of just outright ignoring it for that reason. And this is a similar situation where, yeah, I can't quantify it, and it's difficult to do so, but I do think it should be factored into your calculus.
All right, so if Kawhi ends up being out,
yeah,
the conversation is probably Paul George. 30 minutes seems like a reasonable top end. 26 feels like probably the fewest he'd play.
I have 28.
Okay.
I feel pretty good about him getting significant time, and obviously the usage would be significant. The price is exceptional, so yeah, I'm all about that. I do want to try to speed through other relevant points because I want to take the last 10 minutes and be ready to, like, I'm running pivot rotations and trying to guess what is going to happen if things break certain ways, and I feel like this is one of those times. I like the centers on Atlanta. The matchup is really good for them, and as we're talking about the Clippers, the matchup for everyone else is kind of not. That's a bit of an oversimplification, but this is a matchup where either of those guys can get on top of very nominal prices. They're fine on DraftKings. It's more of a FanDuel play where they're both really, really cheap. Damian Jones is still the floor. He is still $3,500. And let's say you're trying to play, I don't know, James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo in the lineup. Having a flat minimum price center in a great matchup who has been getting the starts, and I expect to do so, though I don't continue to do so. I have him playing 22 minutes. I'm pretty excited about Damian Jones at 22 minutes for $3,500 on FanDuel against the Clippers. Nobody's going to own him there. Alex Len perfectly fine to get to at 4,100 on FanDuel. So both less appealingly priced on DraftKings, but FanDuel, I think they make pretty interesting punts. Justin Holiday, great on both sites. Again, he started the second half in the last game. I expected TJ McConnell to play today, and I saw a number of ways in which this Pacers lineup could kind of screw him out, and I could see the minutes coming down. That's really hard to do now. Now you're looking at whether or not you open up. Do we get enough time out of Doug McDermott? I think we probably do. I have him at 29 right now. I have Nazmi Trulong at 21. He's also 3,000. I prefer Clemens. Got a frog in my throat. What are you doing in there? Sabonis, little less interesting when you move him out to the 4 there. Not the greatest matchup for him, but still in play. But again, it's really tough to get to. Like, I like Sabonis. I love Drew Holiday. And he's really hard to get into lineups. I love Drew Holiday. 92, 86, still no Lonzo. Quite possibly no Brandon Ingram, dealing with midday downgrade symptoms. That's what you saw last game was a bit of a ceiling game. And the matchup isn't as good. So he was on a slate where I loved 17 guys. I think my absolute favorite play in the last one, he went out and put up 60 whatever the hell. I haven't projected for a touch over 50 tonight, assuming Ingram doesn't play. That's still someone I'm going to have interest in on DK at $8,600. So there are a lot of guys who, especially if Beverly is out, I can really see Trae Young getting there again. I am a little more. Both Trae and Luka carry massive, massive upsides. Luka is slightly easier to contain in difficult matchups, has been my experience in their limited careers so far. So I'm a little more excited to play Trae Young at his price than Luka tonight, but both of them again go really underowned, and due to the Towns ownership in their similar price range, I feel it feels weird having my spirit animal, my birthday buddy, Karl Anthony Towns, is the guy who is apparently getting shed out of many of my lineups. And don't get me wrong, I would really try to match the field. There's no reason to think this isn't absolutely brilliant for him again with no Wiggins. But I suspect you'd see a lot of me running Harden and probably number 2 being Giannis, and then Harden and Trae, and then Harden and Luka, and then I probably have Drew over both Luka and Trae. So it's probably
okay.
I'd probably be trying to run Harden, Giannis, Harden, Drew, Harden, Trae, Harden, Luka, and then trying to keep myself with 20-25% Towns, because there's no reason dude can't do some ridiculous damage tonight, but trying to make it up by in those other lineups, getting some leverage against that ground that I'm giving up by playing more Covington and more Teague, both of whom are priced excellently and give you the ability to do so.
All right, real quick, we got 2,500 of you in here now. Hit that like button. In the meantime, I'm dropping this link in chat to talk about SuperDraft. It is the sponsor of the show, and it is a fun place to play. They do not have that pesky salary cap. Instead, they have the multiplier game mode, which lets you pick any player that you want, and it offers countless lineup combinations. They have massive overlays every week. They're continuing to do that through the NBA. That is their form of marketing. If you come in our link, which I just dropped into chat, and you make a deposit of $100 and use the promo code OSMO, they will give you $20 for immediate use into any contest they have on their site. You just can't withdraw that $20. You got to play it first. So that is definitely a good way to go. They've got NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA. They've got everything. They had nice MLB contests as well. They're going to fire that back up in the spring. So definitely check that out. They are available on an app or at superdraft.io. So give them a shot and have some fun. There is overlay guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but they're throwing out a lot of contests tomorrow, and they are running at about, I've seen them as high as 35% vacant when they go off at lock. So that's something to definitely give consideration to. Real quick one here on the Spurs and Trailblazers. I'm not excited about that game. Derek White is okay. DeJounte Murray is out because it's a back-to-back. People are asking about Lillard in this one in particular.
I really like him. Look, there's a very zigging and zagging when it comes to player ownership. We're going, 60% or Corey Joseph or 40% JaMychal Green are inane on slates with many better options who aren't hindered by being not super fantasy basketball players. So just play someone with a similar projection who's 6% is one thing. But there's also pivoting away from slate construction. And you and I and everyone else had the same first instinct when they opened up today and went, oh my God, Towns and Harden and lots of value. And then there's all these 3K guys, boom, build it. Damian Lillard is 8,700, I think is the number on DK. Yeah, dude can get in there, put up a brilliant number. This Spurs team is not as good defensively as one's previous years. They're not bad. And their ranking will improve as the year goes on. There's been some tough matchups. There's been a couple things that have limited those numbers. But, I no reason not to. I have Lillard projected for over 50. Like, he's $8,700. Like, that's a really good price. I like getting some Damian Lillard. I prefer Drew Holiday at 86. If Ingram is out, I don't know if Ingram is in. That would end up being very, very close for me. Lonzo being out is a really relevant piece there. Hart being out is a really relevant piece there. But having Ingram out really puts that over the top, I suspect. And again, this would have to go by the ownerships, which are going to have trouble keeping up with all the news as it comes out. I suspect at that point, I would prefer Lillard if Ingram is in. So, but I really like Lillard. I certainly don't mind Aldridge whatsoever. And all these guys are guys who DeJounte Murray being out gives a reasonable cookie to. I'm fine with Derek White. I don't think he's going to get as many minutes as some people think he will. Frequently the Spurs don't let anyone touch 30. And I'm not sure it would be him even if they did. And so you're going to see minutes in the mid-20s for him. Yep. Spurs backups are always somewhat more compelling GPP plays than people expect them to be, because you frequently see games where the starters play 28, 28, 26, 24, and 24 minutes. And then you have backups playing 20, 20, 22, 24, and 24 minutes. And those guys are pretty interesting at 3 whatever K. So that lets you look more at Patty Mills, certainly, and other guys in this rotation, and I would be exposed to them, and that is so reflected in the rankings.
Yeah, and that was one of my the Cash Game Building Blocks article that I put out for free every day here. The early value was Derek White, and I said, hey, look, he's going to play 26 to 28 minutes. He has a tick or two of upside there. He's only had 25 or more fantasy points 3 times, partly because of the glut of the mediocre point guard options for the Spurs. On a positive note, all 3 of those games came with DeJounte Murray playing alongside him. So I like him tonight, but we've seen other value pop up here. But this could be the forgotten guys, as you mentioned. Now we have new shiny objects, and there's probably going to be a couple more that pop up here in the next 12 minutes. Yeah. But
now it is worth saying that I am to some degree contradicted by our rankings. We saw Harden go up to 44 in the last ownership rankings, but I would be remiss and irresponsible if I didn't say my intuition that those ownerships were going to be higher is not borne out by our ownership projections. Like if I'm saying everyone goes, ooh, Towns Harden, and that leads to a decreased ownership of guys who cost 8K and 9K, then I should see Towns and Harden combining for more than collectively. By what was our last one? 24 and 31, something like 75% ownership, that indicating that 1 in 10 lineups has both and 1 in 4 lineups has neither. So maybe I'm reading that wrong. I suspect those ownerships continue to rise, and you see those guys, and even it's not just them. Like you're still looking at that lineup construction when you see guys spending the 10 on Luka and so on and so forth. So I really think some of these guys in the 7 and 8K range look great. I should comment real briefly on Julius Randle at $6,400, who we have projected to be extremely well owned. I think that's just fine. Again, I would probably come in under based on the fact that he really hasn't shown you super ceiling yet. Yes, that price has dropped to the point where many projection systems and algorithms are going to throw him out and you can be like, look, Charlotte, dude can go out, and that's absolutely true. But he's also on the Knicks, and he's also not really gotten there yet, and he's also dealing with substandard point guard play, and there is enough risk in it that I don't feel like jumping on what for today is sort of chalk Julius Randle day. There's a reason he's chalk. But I think there's enough of reason that I would be more inclined to steer away from it than to join the ship. So I think, we had him like 4th. We have him 2nd in our most recent projection. 2nd. There are a lot of brilliant plays on this slate. I am not going in for greater than 30%. Second most popular player on the slate, Julius Randle. He projects great. If you are just running computers and spitting it out there, you should get a massive amount of him. That makes sense. Well done, computers. Again, I will move to other players with similar upside and projections that are a point less and are 6% owned as opposed to 35.
Is there any reason to go to Maurice Harkless at this point tonight? And then they would love to know any of your FanDuel thoughts.
Sure, well, that would take a couple hours.
Well, before the wave of potential news comes in, we got that.
Yeah. Is there any reason to go to Mo Harkless tonight? If Kawhi is out and you want to late swap, and that is the lone late game, right? Because otherwise,
Correct.
No, I really don't want any. Okay, yes, I can see. I don't mind if you're double swap to get Kawhi in or out, depending on what your current orientation is. That came across oddly. That you end up with some Mo Harkless, and that's part of your plan. One of the big edges this year that I've seen over and over again, and I've talked about it a few times, most recently with Wiggins, which is just like, look, if this happens to go this way, which may not be a likely scenario, you're going to get this guy with massive upside at like 5% owned. Clear the cobwebs, get everything out of your head, and look at me carefully as I say this. It's Kawhi Leonard against the Hawks. Okay, and because it's super late swap, but we don't get that news until. And by the way, I think Kawhi Leonard plays. I think this is all bullshit. I think he played 40 minutes last game, and the NBA fined them for basically saying, yeah, he's okay, and they're like, okay, we've got to say he has an actual injury for you to let us rest him normally. Fine, he's got a sore knee. Like, I really think he gets out there and plays. Normally, you show me questionable, I think 50-50. I have an edge, I think 60-40. I'll put Kawhi at about 80-20, I think suits up and plays. So, yeah, I really like leaving some room in your lineup for 5% owned, possibly best player on the planet against terrible Atlanta team. Yes, there are concerns with, Paul George being in, and yes, there are, but there's just a point at which, these guys at 5% are pretty juicy. I'm curious what we have Kawhi projected ownership at. I don't think it's going to be much. We have Kawhi Leonard at 0.4%. So I almost got it. It will be higher than that. If he's in, more than 0.4% of people will swap there. But yeah, that's where that goes. Isiah Hartenstein, 0.6%. I'd have like 8 times that. I'd be like around 5%. It's the same thing with it's got the same thing as that I really like the JaVale McGee thing that went off. It went back to playing 12 minutes the next night. So it's great when you get him on the right night. He's not bad. Maybe they give him a little stretch. Maybe the game blows out and he's playing next to a much older center who they're going to be inclined to give some rest whenever they can. So you get Tyson Chandler foul trouble. You get PJ Tucker foul trouble. You get just the game blows out one way or the other, and you randomly catch 21 minutes of Isiah Hartenstein in a brilliant matchup at 3K. No, don't lock him into cash, but yeah, have more than 0.6%. That's perfectly good fantasy producer. Matchups as good as it gets. Looks sort of like Frankenstein, but watch him go out there and, brains.
All right, I'm just doing some last-minute tweaks to my lineups here.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. You're on the clock. Let's go.
FanDuel.
Don't be selfish. Oh, FanDuel. God. So the whole site. Sure. In 2 minutes, the whole site of FanDuel. Okay, some value guys who interest me. Obviously, Aaron Holiday at point guard is very sexy at 4,000. You may get 39 minutes or something. This is a team now largely bereft of competent point guard play, and not that he's all that and a bag of crisps, as they would say across the pond. But 4K for Aaron Holiday. Very interesting for me. I still think Wesley Matthews at 3,600 as a shooting guard option is in play. Was fine last time with lots of other guys who bust, but sitting at the minimum plus 100 on FanDuel price is a little better. I'm projected for 28 minutes and I think 21.5 fantasy points in this matchup. That feels just fine at 3,600. Justin Holiday is great. No, there's no problem with playing both holidays. There's no problem with playing all the holidays. As a matter of fact, I want to see someone cash in a GPP tonight using all 3 holiday brothers. There's no reason you can't do it now. I think FanDuel's a little easier for you due to the pricing. I want the all holiday team. Make it happen, Captain. But
all right, I'm making 3 right now just for you. Put them in there.
All right, I'm excited about that team. Other guys on FanDuel. Sorry, I'm making weird noises for a reason I can't properly identify, but I'll get over it. It's after effects from last night. My body is still cleaning the toxins. Looking through my other FanDuel notes. Kendrick Nunn again. I'll give him another shout out. 5.4 is well too cheap for my dude. Get him out there. Min price Alexander Walker would have a lot of interest for me. You can still min price Cam Reddish. I'm a little less excited by that, but his playing time last game was diminished by foul trouble. I mentioned the centers on Atlanta. The prices have come up there on Rivers and McLemore. So if you have those guys in, yes, I'd be inclined to save money and play some of these other value guys I'm talking about. Especially if you get Butler news out. Duncan Robinson at 3.6, I'd want some of. Tyler Hero, both sites, priced a little worse on FanDuel. I think he's 5.1, 4.6 on DK, but another guy I'd be interested in. I would have a non-zero amount of Jeff Teague if I get confirmation he's starting in the next 4 minutes at 6.2. That's an easy way to say that question. Other guys I had significant FanDuel notes on. No, let's handle it to specific questions and other things. I think Chris Clemens, there's 4.2. It's in play. It's not as exciting as 3 flat. Hashtag analysis. You done with your lineup, C-Mac? Can we work now? Can we work now?
Almost. Can we work it?
Is it worth it? Yusuf Nurkic? You took your ankle down, twisted it, and reversed it.
Yeah, that was a good one. I had to redo my little holiday lineups here. All right, so let me get over here to chat. Let's see. Trey Lyles, Jeff Green, or Taj Gibson?
Do I have to? Trey Lyles. It's Trey Lyles, those guys. Cash or GPP, honestly, for me.
Any Siakam tonight?
Really tough to price in there. I'm a little more nervous about him with how I have seen Dallas react to guards in his ilk so far this year. I'd kind of rather Gasol or Van Vliet, but that game not quite as appealing as the other ones. And his price, unlike many players, is now reasonably appropriate. So I'm fine with. There's no reason in this game Pascal Siakam can't get 60 fantasy points, but it's not someone I'm actively trying to target. So I have no opinion regarding play more, play less. If you told me you had 10% or 5% or 15 Pascal, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Feels good.
How do you feel about Van Vliet and Anunoby tonight?
I like at their DraftKings prices Anunoby a little more than Van Vliet, a little more than Siakam. That's how I would quantify that. Or qualify that, actually. That's not quantifying.
Any favors love?
Sure. There's you're concerned about the minutes, but again, the price is still perfectly tolerable. It's yes, he's one of many players in that mid range. I'm double checking his price. I want to say it was 62 on DK, which is still obviously too low. And we saw a super ceiling game out of him just last night. So yeah, I'm absolutely fine with you getting some favors and ranked him appropriately. I am. Important to point out, they are on the front end of a back-to-back, which does modify his minutes limit for me a little bit, but there's no Okafor, no Redick, no Lonzo. Basically, for me, I like him just fine right now. The price on DK is too cheap. I admit he's not as high owned as I thought he would be. But again, he's somewhat a victim of being in that middle range. But we have him, I would assume he is I'll just search. Yeah, we have him under 10%. So I would want more than that right now. And in the event Ingram is out, there's just any number of ways that work out. So yeah, I would be somewhat bullish on favors. Thank you for bringing him up, as I don't think I gave him a mention, which is inappropriate.
Whiteside or Randle, as we're coming down to the middle.
Randle for cash, Whiteside in tournaments. Easily both for me, by the way.
All right. I'm loading my lineup, so fingers crossed that works. There we go. They're in. All right, as we're hitting the end here, Len or Chandler FanDuel tournaments?
Len.
Let's see. Teague's still not confirmed.
Yeah, risky. But again, he's not a 7 p.m. game, I don't believe, and you have late swap on DK. So FanDuel, I probably would still like it. What's going to be 3% ownership or 6% ownership or something on a slate this juicy. I would still like it there, and I'd really like holding the spot on DK, unless I, again, remembered the schedule wrong, which I don't think I am. But we're locked, so...
So we're waiting for the database to flip over here. We'll do a little daddy likes and get on out of here. But reminder, superdraft.io, where you do not have to worry about salary cap. It's all about the multipliers, guaranteed overlay for NFL Sunday. That would be, tomorrow. If you sign up coming in on our link using the promo code OSMO, and if you deposit $100, they will give you $20 in Superdraft cash, which you can use in any contest on their site immediately. Let me put that link in chat one more time.
You know who's underrated, by the way, as a band, Emac?
Supertramp.
Supertramp, very good.
Yes.
Bravo, sir. They're excellent.
Come on, you little fighter. No need to get up tighter.
Take the long way home. The Logical song is huge fan of it. You kids out there, if you want to listen to some French vocalist saxophone, Supertramp's really good. I'm a big they're good.
All right, I'm waiting for this to load. What games do we have that you're going to be picking from here?
Just there's 1-7, 1-7-30, so it's just the 7, which was Indiana and Milwaukee.
All right, perfect.
I believe
that's what I thought.
I think that's it.
Why is this doing this to me? Oh, it's got them. Oh, there we go. I had the wrong filter on. I'm getting all the showdown games. I'm like, what the hell? There's not showdown here.
There's no showdown here. Curious how that Nets game is going. Suns, Kyrie. You take the guy with the 50% usage off the court. I imagine it's play a little differently. See if Dinwiddie gets there.
Sorry, I had some weird filter thing going on.
Yeah, do your thing. I'm not in a hurry. You may or may not have noticed. I'll sit here and talk for an hour about snow and pierogies and stuff.
The $10 Big Jam, $400,000. How much do you think is going to first?
I'm sure it's $100,000.
$100,000, because why not give 25% of the prize pool to one lucky soul?
And then they're gonna grab 15, but that other 60% that's spread between the other 23,000 teams, get your piece.
All right, who is the number 1 owned player on DraftKings?
All right, so we have Pacers and Bucks. Aaron Holiday. Well, it's DraftKings? Yeah, it's still Aaron Holiday.
It is Aaron Holiday.
What now? Am I guessing?
Percentage, because he's the top guy. So.
I'm just checking. So I play this game with you, both Chris and
different.
Josh, and right, you all do it differently. Sometimes you quiz me, sometimes I just read them, sometimes what's his percentage? 22.
Ooh, 28.
I'd want a little less. I love him on FanDuel, where I suspect it's going to be. You should check that one if you have a second. If you have a FanDuel lineup with Aaron Holiday, and it'd be a quick pick, and I suspect you do. FanDuel, I suspect that number's a little closer to 40. I'm fine with it. Like the guy should now play into the high 30s in minutes and do all the ball handling, and with McConnell going out, that made a lot of sense. I would still probably look elsewhere. Again, you're about to tell me TJ Warren is 5% owned.
6.2.
Yeah, so there you go. So there's only 8%. There's only $800 difference between those two guys on DK. And I would have TJ Warren projected a little bit higher, and he's 1/6 as owned. So that's how that thing works.
FanDuel single entries. Thank you, Don't Embiid My Status, for hooking me up there. He is 75% Holiday.
Single. I would expect him to be in almost every single, but it's probably even more than the 40 I just threw out in. I would imagine like the big field, whatever their big 10 or 25, their 400K, 300K, whatever their big one is. Maybe it's 50 or something, but anyhow, he's gonna have a big old number on FanDuel, and he should. That one's tough to get away from.
Who is number 2?
Won't be Giannis. Won't be Bledsoe. Won't be a Buck. It's the other Holiday.
There you go. We've got back-to-back holidays.
Oh yeah, and celebrate.
Justin Holiday, 25%. Giannis, 10. Sabonis, 7.
Is he third? Giannis is third at 10.
Giannis is third.
You were going down the list. Sorry,
I was going down the list at 10. Yeah. Dougie McBuckets. What do you think Dougie McBuckets is?
Apparently, he's more than TJ Warren, which
damn it, I walked myself.
Yeah, you read it in there. So I know he's between Giannis. You told me he was a 10.
You're spoiling our mentalist game. They think you know all of these. You just know how to read me. So
You said you were reading.
No,
I'm reading them in order. Giannis, Sabonis, Dougie, and I said
normally I'm not that obvious.
I said Warren is 5. You said TJ is. I think you said 6.23. So I know he's under Sabonis, who is under 10, and above Warren, who is 6.23. So using my 1 second, let me do the full. What is
Karnak the Magnificent? Nobody.
7.5%.
He is 6.7.
I'm terrible. That's about as far away as I could have gotten with the information you gave me. To be honest,
the fact that you still remember TJ Warren was 6.23. Nobody that's listening remembered that, but you.
There's like four guys I hang my hat on every night. Like I get done with the show and I'm always like, okay, this guy needs to be good. This guy needs to be good. And sometimes I get 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4. Sometimes I get 0 out of 4. Like we had a really. I was talking with someone last week was completely luck based, probably the most accurate predictive week of my life. Like I've been doing this for 200 weeks, and most of the time, I'd like to think on rough coin flips I get 60% right and 40% wrong. It's it's a hard thing, and most coin flips are coin flips for a reason. But I'd like to think I'm generally batting 60-40. Last week was like 90-10, and I'd go through every show and be like, okay, here's the 21 guys I like most, and usually you have 10 of them be really good, 6 of them be okay, 3 of them be bad, and 2 of them blow up your whole damn lineup. And last week there were just multiple days where of those 20 guys, 16 of them were really good. It was just a crazy, crazy lucky week. But at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, I'm just hanging my hat on Corey Joseph being shit, or JaMychal Green being shit, or JaVale McGee being good, or Subbigan Wiggins being good, or Rozier or whatever. And today I was like, yeah, I gave TJ Warren sort of the cookie of he's the forgotten man in this lineup. You haven't said Bledsoe yet. I thought Bledsoe was going to spike 10 or something. You haven't said Bledsoe yet.
He's half. He's 5. Dante DiVincenzo, whose name I could not remember today, so I just decided to call him Vince.
You said it perfectly.
I was reading it when I was trying to pull it out of my brain.
That helps. How do you pronounce Giannis's last name?
Antetokounmpo.
That's good. That's very solid. Trying to think of other names on this slate. What's the name of the guy who was gonna start for the Pacers until they started Justin Holiday next to Aaron Holiday? I was quizzing you on tough names. Sorry, but this is falling flat.
I don't know. I don't know who it was going to be.
I have trouble with Goga's last name. If you scroll back, yeah, like I actually have trouble saying that one. You'll notice over the last couple weeks I've said Goga about 88 times, and I've tried his last name like twice.
Oh, you had met Nas Mitrulong.
Yeah, that's what I was going for there.
I didn't know his last name.
With Keita Bates Diop of like also previous Timberwolves, also not to be confused with Naz Reid, currently on Timberwolves. Like there's lots of weird 3-word hyphenated names and Nazes floating around. How much is Brook Lopez?
Brook Lopez is 1.8. George Hill 1.5. Miles Turner 1.5. TJ McConnell 0.7.
Sorry, you played yourself.
TJ Leaf 0.4. Jakar Sampson 0.2. Kyle Korver 0.15. Interesting. Malcolm Brogdon 0.04.
Come on now.
Dragon Bender 0.02.
He's active.
Jeremy Lamb 0.01. Chris Middleton something, and then shout out, if not for WB Mason,
Oladipo.
No, Frank Mason the third, baby. He's down with the Milwaukee Herd, their G League team or whatever their city is.
I was about to say I don't think he's there.
Yeah. So that's a good one. No, because I was mad that this would be the perfect time for Frank Mason to be with Sacramento still, because they really could use a point guard to hog the usage like he was so good at in those fourth quarter mop-up duties 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, another guy who occasionally got the 48-minute duty too.
Yeah, weird. All right, we're going to get on out of here, but you've got a bunch of shows tomorrow starting at 9:45. We have you covered up until lock. We have the deep dive final edition last minute questions with Laffy, Alex Baker, and Ben Jazraz Arasa. Then we have Eric and Nolan going over all the injuries.
Ingram out.
Oh, we figured he was, right? Well,
I didn't figure he was. Like I thought it was likely he was out, more likely than playing. But I gave him he was questionable.
I think I just see if I got anything. Let's see, and then the other one, then the show Live Before Lock, of course, taking you down the home stretch. Tomorrow, Eddie, look, the little production meeting on air. We got Live Before Lock NBA style. What is our NBA schedule?
I don't know. It's been a very even-handed week. This week has been brilliant. Like the last 7 days have been, 5, 6, 8, 7, 7, 7. Like it's a solid 7 every night, which my wife tells me. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
All right. Well, we've got probably a 4-gamer starting at 6 o'clock.
It had to end sometime. Yeah, I think it was Josh mentioned to me that this week gets a bit more frenetic with the ups and the downs.
Yeah, so Monday we've got 9, Tuesday we've got 4, and this isn't even Thanksgiving week. Wednesday we've got 11, Thursday we've got 2, Friday we've got what looks like about 10. Next Saturday I think is that the crappy day, the 23rd? No, next Saturday we've got, let's call that 9, but the Saturday after that I think we have 3 or something like that. That would be the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Let me just double check. Yeah, we've got a 5, a 7, an 8, and an 8. So they might do the main slate at 5. I suspect it'll be at 7. So that'll be a light show.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. We have vacation plans coming in from people, so I'm trying to figure out when and if I'm going to travel over the holidays to minimize the aspect on having enough people to program. Not that I don't like it when you and Josh do 4 shows in a 21-hour period, but try to stop from killing you outright.
That's all right. That's what we're here for. We're having our own competition, see who does more. But with that, we're going to get on out here. Thank you, SuperDraft. So Eddie and I will be on. I guess we'll be on at 5 tomorrow to go over those 4 shows. It'll be a little more leisurely pace. We'll break it all down, maybe throw in some other stuff, their life in general. We also have NFL Live Before Lock tomorrow for the Showdown slate. That will be at 7:30 up until kickoff. And then Monday, we start it all over again. 9:30 NBA DFS strategy show, 11 o'clock NFL strategy show, NHL Deep Dive 5, Live Before Lock at 6, and then NFL Live Before Lock for Monday Night Showdown at 7:30 again. So with that, gamers, you could follow Eddie at Fast Eddie Fear. You could follow me at EMACDFS. It's superdraft.io. Promo code AWESOME. $100 deposit gets you $20 in bonus money available for immediate use. With that, gamers, good luck.